If you are a midlife woman or you're coming up on this powerful season of growth, this is the podcast for you. Welcome to Unraveling Together. I'm Samantha Graber, also known as Dr. Sam, seasoned holistic health physician and woman in the midst of midlife's unraveling. Unraveling Together is a place we talk about the things we just don't talk about, but so desperately need to as women. Together we untangle ourselves from our pasts and weave a beautiful web for a future we so deeply desire to bring to life. Grab a cup of chai, water, tea, or joe, and let's get to it. Leave the crap on the grocery store shelf. We are exposed to ungodly amounts of toxins from eating and drinking. When you buy something that comes in some type of packaging, consider the following. How is it packaged? Think single-use plastic. How is it processed? How many words have no vowels and numbers with commas? Think chemicals. How will you prepare the food so you can eat it? Do you drink out of single-use plastic water bottles, the noisy, squishy kind of plastic? Is there a thin lining in your canned foods? Now, while we're talking about plastics, I implore you with all that my mama bear heart can muster, please never microwave anything you are going to eat or drink in any kind of plastic. Never. From the pan to the serving and storing dishes, everything that touches your food and drink matters. Also of note is the fact that many canned tomato products are sold in BPA plastic-lined cans so the tomatoes won't react with the metal. Something to ponder. Avoid plastics like the plague. Bottom line, these plastics compete with the metabolic keys. If you've been listening to my podcast for a while, you may recall that we talked about the receptor locks that are located within your cellular membranes. Our hormones, enzymes, and other physiological chemicals are the keys that open or close these critical locks. The plastics I'm speaking to here actually compete with the keys and cause the cell to become sick when enough of these keys are nudged out. Another word for this is endocrine disruptor. These disruptors cause the cell to turn toxic. Your body, in an effort to protect you, will store the toxic fallout in your fat. That is how the body walls off the life and death organs from toxins. Another way to leave the crap on the grocery store shelf is to change out your oils and fats. Stop eating canola, soybean, any seed oils really. And as for the so-called quote-unquote vegetable oils, you'll be hard-pressed to find anything that resembles a vegetable in the stuff labeled vegetable oil. Oh, and believe you me, that pun and hard-pressed was absolutely intended. So you've got to get rid of these highly processed oils. Do not use them for anything. Read labels like your life depends on it, because it does. If you eat processed foods, anything from a box, pouch, bag, found on a shelf essentially, stop buying brands with these junk oils in them. Now there is work to do here. These oils are in everything that has a shelf life. Same for sweeteners and colors and flavors. Nothing natural about these things, even if it has the word quote-unquote natural on the label. It's just marketing, and it works. Billions of dollars are exchanged in the processed food biz, so companies aren't going to grow a conscience and stop using that term anytime soon. Now, if you're eating the junk oils, the membrane that helps usher nutrients in and waste out of your cells starts to inflame. It becomes rigid and therefore won't be able to do its job. Remember, we want pliable membranes like an underfilled water balloon to help usher the good stuff in and the waste out of the cell. A pliable membrane is a key factor in this process working at its best. Junk oils ensure that the process is thwarted. One last thing to consider is the avoidance of frankenfood. You'll also hear me refer to it as crap when I'm feeling frisky, which is pretty much most days. All right, so frankenfood is most anything that has been processed. In other words, something sold in a form that it was not grown in, i.e. mashed, grated, shredded, chopped, juiced, cut, sliced, etc. If something was done to your food after it was picked or slaughtered, It is processed. So here's a good place for one of my favorite Dr. Samisms. The longer the shelf life of your food, the shorter yours will be. If your food can't spoil, there's no food in your food. So if you can leave some item you buy on a shelf somewhere in your kitchen for weeks, months, years even, there's some chemical added to it to lengthen its quote-unquote shelf life, which is exactly what it sounds like. How long can that product sit on a shelf without going bad or, whatever, disintegrating? Okay, so this stuff has no business being eaten. If your food can't spoil, there is no food in your food, period. Real food rots or goes bad. Processed food can resist the rot for way longer than what is natural. The crap in our processed foods gunks up the same receptors that I mentioned a moment ago. This all contributes to the level of chaos at a cellular level. This chaos builds and builds, eventually lowering the defenses of the cell, in turn making it sick. Sick cells equate to an ill you. What is this C.R.A.P, right? All right, so C.R.A.P stands for, it's an acronym, C.R.A.P. C is for the chemicals that your grandparents would not have in their own kitchen. R is for refined sugars and grains. A is artificial colors, flavors, sweeteners, etc. And P is something that is processed in any way. So if it has a label on it, it is suspect. Choose food that was on the plant, not made in a plant. Now, while you're at it, choose foods that were swimming, walking, slithering, or flying in the not-too-distant past. Not to be gross now, but meat should rot when in a thawed state if it's been meat or no longer alive for a while. Now, big food has run amok, unchecked, for far too long. From time to time, I use quotations around the word foods because much of what is passed off as food has no real food in it. It's riddled with preservatives, added sugars, fillers, bulking agents, or you might see bulking agents, dyes, coloring, flavor enhancers, and a whole bunch of other things that should be illegal to put in food. Major air quotes here. I've been guiding clients through my 12-step strategy for a body and brain that just won't quit for years. Over a decade of experience in direct patient care went into its development. Correcting the biochemistry of the individual client with real food is how I've been able to help hundreds of people solve their metabolic mystery. Recall that our strategy for successfully resetting the metabolism must be twofold, as discussed in last week's episode. How doing absolutely nothing is everything when it comes to jumpstarting your sluggish midlife metabolism. Bottom line, we must stop bogging down the system with the garbage, and we have to burn what we have stored for later. Are you picking up what I'm laying down? So now, to continue the conversation and in the spirit of leaving the crap on the grocery store shelf, there are 2 steps to implement next. Step number 7, squelch that sweet tooth. The sweet tooth. Get that baby extracted. Well, if it was only that easy. See, our sweet meters, they're broken. We've been raised to be sugar addicts from the very beginning. In nature, sweet is associated with safe to eat. We are hardwired to seek sweet. Now, in the wild, that is good. But in today's world, where we have literally engineered the wild out of our life, this is not good. It is bad, very bad. It is so bad it's killing us, slowly and painfully. See, even our fruit is sweeter than ever. It is bred to be that way. Whether GMO or good old-fashioned propagation, this stuff is off the charts sweet. And we love it. Did you know that there are over 70 names for sugars in food? This number doesn't even touch on the alternative sweeteners. Now, some aliases for the other white powder, these aliases are agave nectar, corn syrup, sucrose, anything with an ose really, rice syrup, anything with a syrup, dextrose, there's another ose or that OSE at the end, high fructose corn syrup, you'll see HFCS CS now instead of high fructose corn syrup. But we're on to your shenanigans, big food. So the list, it just literally goes on and on and on. Start keeping track of them for yourself. You'll be absolutely shocked at the lengths that these sneaky buggers go through to keep their shenanigans unnoticed. Oh, I've noticed. And you're going to start noticing too. The second step in today's episode is step number 8. Put processed foods on notice. Now, step number 8 is a biggie. If what you buy is in a box with a nutrition facts label, it is most likely altered in some fashion. Ergo, processed. Now, food is processed to prolong its shelf life, not yours. My rule of thumb here, if your quote-unquote food has more than 5 ingredients, pay close attention. Now go to your pantry or reach in your desk drawer for something in a package. If you're like many of my clients, they have some sort of granola or nut-packed bar on hand for a healthy snack. Let's sneak a peek at the ingredients of a popular nut bar that promises to bring goodness to the world. I won't use the brand name, but it's a synonym for nice. All right, so let's see the ingredients. Peanuts, almonds, honey, sugar, non-GMO glucose, buzzword there, non-GMO. All right, so whole food, sugar, sugar, sugar. 3 kinds of sugar in the first 5 ingredients. What in the world? Here's a little tidbit for you. Labeling laws mandate that manufacturers must label ingredients by weight. And their workaround when it comes to the sweet stuff is to use different sources. So the first ingredient isn't sugar. Now, when I tell you these guys are sneaky, I mean it. You must be on alert at all times. Remember this, anything with a nutrition label is suspect. Next week will be the final episode in our 8-part series focused on my 12-step strategy for a body and brain that just won't quit. Subscribe to be sure that you are notified when that episode goes live. Until next time, take good care of yourself and each other. Thank you for joining me on the Unraveling Together podcast. I'd love to turn this thing we've got into a dialogue. Follow me on LinkedIn at Dr. Sam Graber, where we can have conversations about all things midlife, perimenopause, and finding meaning through it all. If you want a deeper dive into exploring your midlife experience, consider joining the Unraveling Together community of rebellious midlife women. It is there that we roll up our sleeves and do the work. Unraveling Together is a resource hub, roadmap, and online coaching community curated by yours truly. We are navigating this time called midlife together, for we truly believe we are stronger together. And when unravelers are in need of an assist, they have all of us there alongside them.